This real estate panel, we are launching a real estate group for the IAC on a national level. There is an existing real estate group with a concept that's already working in LA. And then we have a cocktail reception and network at 6 o'clock at marquee number 16. So we can all schmooze a little further later on. Oh, here we go. My name is Ariel Tirosh. I'm the co-chair of IAC New York City. And I'm going to hand it to Shimon Shkury, who is IAC New York member and also a national board member. And he's going to present our panels this afternoon.
Thank you, Ariel, and thank you, everybody, for being here this afternoon, actually. My name is Shimon Shkury. I'm a... Okay, can you hear me now? No. All right. Better? Better now? No?
All the way. Like that.
Okay, let's try this. My name is Shimon Shkury. As Ariel said, I'm a board member, national board member, also a council member at IAC New York. In my day job, I am the president of Ariel Property Advisors, which is a commercial brokerage firm which covers New York City. I want to first thank Ariel, Erez, and everybody that put this amazing panel together. We'll talk to each one of the panelists in 1 second. I want to mention that we have a reception right after this at about 6 o'clock. Right around here. We're going to tell you exactly where it is in a few minutes. Number 16. So we're going to have real estate networking there, and right after that, dinner. Before we start, I just wanted to really thank each one of our panelists, Phil and Shai and Danny. When I called each and every one of them, it wasn't just because they're extremely successful real estate people, be it professionals or investors. It's also because of their involvement in the Jewish and Israeli community. These are people that if you make a call to, you know you're going to get a yes. It's a yes to get involved. It's a yes to sit in an organization. It's a yes to give money. It's just amazing. I mean, I've been seeing Phil for the past 2 weeks. I think we met like 3 times in different events. Same with Danny, same with Shai. So I really want to thank you for taking time of your busy schedule, especially on Sunday, and being here. So let's give them a round of applause first. And before we start with the official questions of the panel and talking about the real estate industry, what I'd like to do is to have each one of our panelists, starting with Phil, talk a little bit about themselves, some personal stuff, where you started in the business, what you do today, and if possible, also your connection to Israel and your involvement in different things as you'd like to speak about it.
Great. So I'll start with, I was in Washington long time ago in law school, graduated law school, and went straight to, almost straight to my law firm in New York, which is called Weil, Gotshal, and Manges. I've been there 34 years, if you can believe that. I know I look like 36, so it's hard to believe. But and I've been doing not the same thing, but I've been in the same place all that time. I had the real estate group. I also had the hospitality and gaming group. You here now? Is that okay? Okay. And I had the infrastructure group at my firm. We represent all sorts of people. We represent financiers. We represent developers. We represent people like Donald Trump. We represent people all across the board. We've also represented a number of U.S. real estate developers and doing bond offerings in Israel. My connection to Israel is pretty intense, starting with the fact that my uncle fought in the 48 war and unfortunately was killed on the last day of the war. That's where we start, but we go forward in a positive way. My brother lives in Israel with his family. I have a house in Israel, which I spend about 5 months a year in Jerusalem. And I'm active in pretty much every organization that has something to do with Israel, I would say, almost everyone. And I'm so excited to be here because IAC is a new organization for me. My friend Rachel, I know, has been involved for a couple of years, heavily involved for a couple of years. And for me, this is a new experience with a lot of new people, and I'm excited. Shai, you're next.
Thank you. So my name is Shai Shamir, right? Israeli name. And you can hear from my accent that I'm also Israeli. It's funny because when I travel around the US, if people try to guess where I'm from, and if I don't give them my name, and they have nothing to do with Israel, sometimes I would give them like 10 guesses, and they never guess that I'm from Israel. Some of them I'll tell them maybe as a hint, I'm from the Middle East, but then they still don't know that I'm from Israel, you know, if you really go to deep mid-America. And of course, in New York, it's easier, and either they, once I tell them my name, they say, oh, sure, of course, Israeli, or after 2 words, they realize that I'm Israeli. So, because they're so familiar with the Israeli accent. So I came to New York in 2003. I came with my wife to study at Columbia. At the same time, I started working at Brack Capital. Today, I'm the CEO of the company. It was a very successful and interesting ride, I should say. Coming to New York to study at Columbia, so it's not a classic story of you come and you think 2-3 years you'll come back, because from the beginning we basically knew that we're going to stay a few years to justify the tuition, of course. So we started a few years, and then we said, you know what, we like it. Let's see what happens when the first kid will be first grade. That's probably where you need to make the decision. Do you come back or not, or when? Then the first kid became first grade, so we said, you know, let's wait and see what happens with the second kid, if he's first grade. Now, I think that truthfully, it's not that we're not connected to Israel. I think today, the modern technology, and of course the proximity, it makes the proximity much better. And you can live here or in the US and feel that you're in Israel. So we have a lot of Israeli friends, and my parents are coming to visit us, let's say, twice a year for a month. And it's Rosh Hashanah, I bring all my family from Israel. So we're trying to live here, but be in our heart in Israel. It always reminds me a quick story. You can do it? I'll do it. I'll go for it. When I was young, I read this book. It's a comic book, Israeli comic book. And there was a short story about this guy who came to the US from Israel with nothing. And started his way, and after a few years, he became very successful. He got married, he had a lot of businesses. And then one day, he started to hear this pitch, like sound, high pitch sound in his ear, like, too. And at the beginning, he ignored it, completely ignored it. And then after a week, it didn't go away, and he started thinking, yo, you know what? It reminds me of Israel. It reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of the Shabbat, the candles. It reminds me of everything in Israel. And it became stronger and stronger, and decided to sell everything at a loss, because he said, I've got to leave now. I need to get rid of it. I'm leaving everything. His wife didn't want to go back to Israel, so he got divorced, left everything behind, got back to Israel with a little fortune. And you know what happened? When you go to Israel with a little fortune, you lose everything. So he lost everything that he had. And the sound was still there. So he said, I got to check it out. So he went to the doctor. He looked at the doctor, and the doctor checked him and told him, you know what, you have some wax in your ear. Just clean it with hot water and you'll be fine. You'll be good. And why I'm telling this story, of course, I think that in a way, IAC, an organization like IAC, is exactly to help you to identify, is it really, what do you hear? What do you hear? I mean, listen to your heart. What do you hear? Do you hear that you want to go and be in Israel, or you want to try and live here like you lived in Israel in a community? So I think that relates to Israel. It relates also to real estate, because whenever you hear a beep in your heart or in your ear, you need to know your inner self and see what it says, because sometimes your interpretation can lead you to wrong places. So there are signs, but you need to see what the signs means, right? So read the signs correctly, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, my name is Benedict, and I want to start by thanking really Shimon to inviting me to be here today. This setting here is really a merging of both my passion. I'm passionate about real estate and about Israel. And I see this organization as a critical organization, as a really a linchpin of the battle for Jewish continuity. Because we have, that continuity is pretty much set when we are in Israel, when we live in Israel. But here, it's very easy to lose it, and it's really a critical work that this organization, such a young organization, to see such a success. And being here and knowing that it's only the third year of its existence, having such a tremendous conference is just an incredible testament to the organizers, to the board members, and really, Shimon, kol hakavod.
Thank you.
My attachment to Israel is multifaceted. It's emotional, it's religious, it's familial, it's historical, it's on every level. Now I do business with Israel, and it's great. We have, last week there was a headline in the papers, in the real estate papers in New York, saying that the Gulf states are heavy into real estate investments in the U.S., that I think 600 million or 800 million has been invested by them. And that is nothing. Here you're talking about the Gulf state, the biggest producer of oils in the world, and Israel has invested billions of dollars. Israeli investors, private pension funds, various organizations, insurance companies have invested an enormous amount of money and they were first one. They were smart. They came here in 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11. They didn't wait till 2016 when the prices are 3 caps and you can't buy anything, but it's good. It's good to buy in 2008 and sell to the Gulf states in 2016. So this is great. This is a fantastic panel. I'm looking forward to. I don't want to bore you about my history. Let's talk about real estate. And Shimon, it's all yours.
Thank you. So let's start with real estate. So you mentioned 2016, and everybody's looking at 2016 statistics and asking questions about where the market is. We produce a lot of reports about New York City, and we can tell you that in New York City, we've seen land trades go down dramatically throughout the year, about 40% less transactions of land. Prices haven't gone down, but land transactions did go down, so there's a lot less of that. The multifamily market, on the other hand, is holding up. More or less the same level of transactions compared to 2015, and prices in the boroughs especially are still going up. So from your perspective, each one of you, will you tell us please a little bit about what your company does real estate-wise, and then tell us about where you see this market today and what do you do with that information based on your analysis. And Shai, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So Brack Capital is an owner and developer of real estate. We are a global company with offices in Europe, Germany, Russia, and in the US, we mainly focus on New York City development, but we have done also a pretty large project down in Miami roughly 10 years ago, 720 units. In addition, we do some lending. We lend to small-time developers, and we also have a private REIT that invest in multifamily. Boring assets, Class B, Midwest, trying to get to 8 to 10% cash-on-cash yield. And it's hard to find these days because everything is so competitive. In New York specifically, in the last few years, we've done, I think let me just go back in for a second. I think the luxury that we have, in a way, is that we have patient money. We have a few pockets. We have an Israeli institutional pocket, and we also publicly traded in the London Stock Exchange. But we also have a pocket of high net worth individuals. And it means basically that we're trying to do the right deals. We don't have really pressure to do a lot of deals, and we don't have a pressure to sell. Sometimes some of the funds will have a sunset where you need just to go and sell. So I'm thinking all daily, actually, what can we do? What's the next deal? In the last few years, we've done hotels. We developed a few hotels. Most recently, we completed the Indigo Hotel in the Lower East Side. you're all invited. It has now one of the, I'm happy to say, because it's when you develop, you never know what will happen at the end. That's the risk of development. But I'm happy to say that we were successful to develop a pretty cool hotel with a really unique rooftop bar. It's called Mr. Purple. And gladly I say, I mean, again, I'm married with 2 kids, so I'm not spending as much as I wanted over there. But I'm hearing from the stories that it's nice. So if you're next time you're in New York, just go and have a drink over there, because it has beautiful views of the city. So I'm not doing marketing here, but just I really think it's a good advice for tourists in New York or for people that live in New York. So anyway,
And it's on you, right?
on me.
Right.
I'll give you on Monday domestic alcohol 5% discount, between 4 to 5.
With an IAC code. Yeah.
Right. So we've done hotels, we've done condos and rentals. So pretty much everything that you can do in New York City. However, today, exactly as Shimon pointed, the market is, I don't want to say overheated, but if you look at the cycles of real estate, where you have recession, recovery, expansion, and then hypersupply, and then you can again get to the recession stage, I think, if you ask, nobody knows, but we probably closer to the end of the existing cycle. Now, it could be that it will last another year, another 2 years, but it's always easier to take a negative perspective of the market. But I think that in the next couple of years, there will be some opportunities. So what we are doing today, it's hard to do, especially for Israelis with Spielkes. As we say, they want to do more and more and more. You need to probably sit and wait and look at what's going on in the market and see that maybe people that bought 2 years ago a lot of properties now have too many properties on their hand and they cannot finance it or they cannot execute it. So I'm looking. I'm always looking. I just told Joe, this month for me is like the yes month. Everything I say, yes, yes, yes. People call me, you want to meet? Yes. You want to come to speak in a panel? Yes. Let's see what happens. Right? So
it's all about timing for us. We got him at the right month.
Next, Phil. So the beauty of being as old as I am is I've been through 4 cycles. 4 cycles, as Shai described them, ups and downs. This is an interesting one because so far you've got a number of conflicts, and we represent people all across the country in all different industries, ranging from industrial property to multifamily to commercial office to residential to retail, all across the board. We've also represented people in the e-commerce industry, so it's another twist on the retail sector. But as far as I'm concerned, the cycle is not clear. We're not clear exactly where we're going, and I don't think we're going the same place at the same speed in every industry. So Shai was speaking about New York. New York, interestingly enough, is overheated in some of its areas. Commercial office is clearly overheated. There's way too much hotel space being built. His hotel is going to be one of the last successful ones. I'm just joking. Hopefully yours will be successful, but there'll be others. I think that what you see in some cities like Miami is you see an overbuilt climate, particularly in condos and downtown Miami. All sorts of. I'm going down on Wednesday because Brickell. On Wednesday we have meetings on a restructuring of a property on Brickell. So thank you. The interesting thing is that the other part of the equation is that there's a lot of CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities, that are coming due in the next 12 months, 12 to 24 months. A number of those issuances, or a number of properties in those issuances, won't be able to be refinanced, at least not through ordinary means. So unless they find private funding, equity funding, something that will take them out of the debt, they're going to have some real problems. We also represent the two largest special servicers, who are the ones that take over properties when things get bad, when commercial mortgage-backed securities get into trouble. So we're projecting being very busy. In fact, we hired 4 new restructuring attorneys just to do that for the next 12 months. But the other part of the equation, the good part, is 2 pieces. One is Brexit. Brexit is pushing a lot of people who would normally invest, a lot of institutions who would think about investing in England, they're coming over to the United States. So you have some new and additional capital, either from the Arab countries or from all sorts of other places. Russia, China, more intense investing in the United States as a result of Brexit. So you've got a lot of reasons to continue to invest in the United States, and I think some markets are going to be strong, like the multifamily market all across the country, but I think some markets will face crisis, and maybe big crisis in the next 12 months.
Dan.
Yeah, Phil, just to take on what you just mentioned, I think that the reason that you're going to have these, where you're going to have, I think that Shai seemed to indicate we are at the bottom of the 9th, and you're kind of middle of the game still. I think that it really depends on which class of real estate. And the one where there's going to be major issues, and you're talking about the CMBS, that's which is coming due, is going to be primarily, I think, in retail. Some office properties, but a lot of retail. Where we're not going to see as much problem, I think, is the fact that banks and lenders, all crises have been because properties were too leveraged. But the last 5, 6, 7 years, banks have been much more conservative. Their regulators have been very, very hard on them, and they have not lent at the kind of levels that they're used to. We're closing on a property later this month with 45% leverage. That's all. That's what the numbers show. And when you have these kinds of valuations, even if you have a 25% drop in values, the bank is still safe, and as long as you can make your interest payment, you're okay. So I think that we spoke about, everybody heard that Macy's is shutting down 100 stores, I believe. And when you look at certain malls in smaller, not the major malls in the large metropolitan areas in America, but the smaller malls where the anchor is having trouble or is going to shut down, then that impacts all the other retail stores and the cash flow, and you're going to have a lot of potential interesting buys for you, Shai, in the next couple of years.
No, I do agree. It might be the 9th inning, and it might be that we're heading to a double header, right? So then maybe the next game will be not as bad, but so maybe we have a little bit more room before the next downturn. And I do agree completely. You can see the huge difference on the banking side between 06, 07, and what's going on today. Today, try to get a condo loan finance. It's almost impossible, right? I mean, it used to be that you would get 90%, 95%.
105.
True. And I used to get in 06, 07, I got term sheets from 8 banks. 5 of them would not even come to see the site and just send you a term sheet, right, for $250 over LIBOR construction loan. Today, even when the deal makes a lot of sense, it's very hard to find 45%, 40% loan to cost on debt, and lenders will charge you for LIBOR plus 4, 5, 6%, sometimes even 7%, depends on the project. So of course they learned a lot from it, and of course there is more room for things to get refi. However, at the end, it's also the exogenic influence. So it could be that things that will come from Europe, from Russia, from China, that will influence the market. Let's see what happens with the elections. And then typically, I think I read some research about the last 100 years and cycles, and most common are 2 years after the first term of election. So be careful from the 2018s, right? The 08s, right? So 2018, 2008 was a year. So nobody knows. That's the beauty about it, right? So also the subprime. Subprime, I remember 2007, July, I got a phone call from a lender. I was about to close on a $90 million loan. And the lender told me, stop negotiating the loan documents because if you don't sign it now, we are canceling term sheets. We are stop lending. Something big is coming, right? That was July of 07, then 08. We all know what happened. So for some people, in hindsight, it's very easy to say, yeah, of course, the subprime. Everybody knew that it's going to come. But maybe we are now in this thing that we don't know, and next year will be so obvious. Of course. Now, so we don't know. It's easy to take, as I said, the negative approach. Trying to be optimistic is my month of saying yes, as I said. So let's see, let's be optimistic.
So let's show you some deals so you can say yes to those. Then we come back from... one of the things that Warren mentioned is interest rates. One of the things that we've seen is that interest rates have been extremely low for the past few years, and that definitely, I think, affects values in a positive way. And when interest rates will go up again, and they probably will in December, I'm curious to see what the effect of that. Before we go to the next question, I wanted to mention that we'd like to make it interactive. So anybody who has a question out there, we'll throw you this, and you can ask the question.
Wow.
Oh.
That was cool.
And how do you see what's happening in Israel with all the real estate? Are we expecting prices to go down, or is it just going to continue to keep on going up?
So the question is about prices in real estate in Israel.
Right.
Shai, you probably want to take this one.
Funny, because we spoke about it before the panel.
Yeah.
No, it's from there. It's from there. It's the mic.
It's fine. Put it on the floor. It's fine. Okay, send it back.
No, on the chair. On the chair.
Put it on the chair backwards.
Good.
That's okay. Good.
And I said to the members of the panel that maybe we should talk about real estate in Israel, but everybody told me, who cares about the Israeli market? It's Israel is coming to the US. And the funny thing, I'm fascinated by the Israeli market, right? In 2005, I actually did my thesis at my Columbia master's on the Israeli market. So I analyzed the market in 2005. So the market in 2005 in Israel was just coming out of recession of maybe 7 or 8 years. Nobody touched in real estate in Israel. If you invested in an apartment in real estate in Israel in, let's say, 1995, and you sold it in 2004, you pretty much broke even or maybe even lost money in certain markets. And, of course, cycles, right? So 05, suddenly, somebody introduced, one of the big developers introduced the first towers in Israel, and everybody started to build towers. So 05, 06, 07 were amazing years in real estate in Israel. And 09, 08, 09 were everywhere else in the world. It was raining and cold and depressing. Israel market was going up. And now, 2016, right? Everybody, I never say everybody, but I just hosted this group of students from one of the universities in Israel that study real estate. I'm also teaching at Columbia and NYU. So from time to time, we do like delegations. So they came to lecture. And it's amazing to hear the conception. They say, no, Israel, it's controlled by the government, right? 99% of the land is basically on a land lease because it's owned by the government, so we can control the supply. Then you have a huge amount of demand because the demand is not just Israel, demand is Jews from around the world. So you have 8 million Jews around the world that everybody wants to buy in Israel. So of course there is no problem of supply, you control supply, no problem of demand. So I'm a big believer of cycles. Not only me, right? If you take 100 years ago and analyze it, you'll see that every market will have its cycle. And now I'm hearing in Israel exactly the notion and the concept that you hear for markets that are like at the end of a bubble. No cycle, the demand will go up always, prices will just go up, you have to buy, today you need to buy a condo in Tel Aviv, you pay more or less like you would pay in New York, right? And it's impossible for the locals, for most of the Israelis to even afford real estate in Israel. So forget about, we just came from a panel about the Middle East and what's going on in the Middle East, so everybody ignores about the macroeconomics, right? Forget about that. Just if you take that market in general, as a real estate market, something needs to come, and I'm sure that there will be some sort of correction in the next year or two. Some markets you're already going to start seeing it, and I'm sure that also in Tel Aviv. And that's even not taking into consideration what will happen around Tel Aviv. So my view, again, it's my yes month, so I'm not trying to take, again, the negative point of view, but there is no way that the prices will just go up and up in Tel Aviv. So at some point, there will be a correction.
Okay, there's a question in the back. Could you say?
I don't need the cue, by the way.
Okay.
So Daniel and Shai, you've been through a few cycles now, but I think this is applicable to you as well. You guys have this panel of all these different metrics that you're looking at. What are those metrics? And it sounds like if we were at a Brazilian restaurant, you're not green, you're not red, you're ready to turn it one way or another, right? What are those things that you promised yourselves that if you ever saw again, you would liquidate all of your assets and become a seller? So what are you on the lookout for right now to make a major change in your view?
I think I'll double down on what Shai said. The best sign of a bubble is when everybody says nothing, it's never going to happen, and just going to keep going. You hear that more and more. And pardon me? Yeah, well, that was in Florida. And by the way, Florida is different because now people are buying with 30 and 40 and 50% down. So it wasn't the 5% deposit either. So I don't know, you might be able to save yourself a trip to Brickell. But I'm going. You're going. I think that the signs are there. Everybody has different matrices, and you have to decide what your capital sources are looking for in a deal, what's agreeable, what's really reasonable for you. I think for me, I have when I started in the business, everything was, I'm primarily in multifamily in the boroughs of New York and some Manhattan. The only matrix that existed in the 80s was, what multiple of rents are you paying for the building? And now, forget about it. There are 12 matrices. You have price per square foot, price per door, NOI, cash flow. What's the potential in the property? What's the upside? There's so many other matrices. The cost, the taxes. They're really a lot more. It's a much more complicated business, and everybody has their sweet spot, and I don't care buying very little return or no return if I know the property is solid and it's got very good upside, and I know what I can do with that property, reposition it. So it really depends. You have to be very selective. There's no such thing as one market. It's very different. I think that we're seeing now, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Brooklyn free market properties. I don't know if you're selling any of them, Shimon, but you have thousands of units which have come to market in Williamsburg, Bushwick, Greenpoint, that area. And developers need to realize a certain amount of rent in order to be able to pay the debt service or try to sell it to the next guy. And they're basically offering now 2 months rent-free or 3 months rent-free or 2 months rent-free and a membership for this and a membership for that. And they're trying to build up a rent roll and sell it. But now these properties are languishing, and the funds are, which were the ultimate suckers for these properties, are not buying it because they're realizing that the numbers are just not there. So I think the flags is already pretty much red.
So I have the benefit of watching my clients and seeing what they invest in, and thank God we have a lot of big clients, a lot of medium-sized clients, but we see them throughout the country. We see exactly where they're investing and where they're pulling back. I agree that retail, other than the highest end of the retail, is a problem. Macy's announcement and some of the other announcements is a reflection of that. I think multifamily in some cities is just now getting strong. So you have cities like Atlanta where the multifamily is wonderful. It's a lot of conversion opportunity from B- or C+ to A. Terrific opportunities to improve properties in downtrodden or converting areas, areas that are getting better. In some cities, we already discussed Miami, but in some cities you see commercial real estate, commercial office buildings going down in value, and that's a sign just specific to those cities and to that commercial type of property. So you really, this is a market, as I said before, this is a market where your geographic indexing or geographic pointing out where you're going to be and your type of property, you have to take that all into account. You have to figure out where you want to invest. If I was putting my money out, which I do, I invest only in real estate, and I would continue to put money in multifamily in some cities. But obviously, you got to make sure that the person you're putting it with, at least from my point of view, being a passive investor, has to be somebody who's terrific, like these guys who joined me on the panel. It has to be people like them, people who are honest, people who are decent, people who are going to work the properties to get the best out of them. The one place I would be very, very careful is in retail. I do believe that we haven't seen half of what the internet, the e-commerce boom will create as far as retail is concerned. Sure, everybody here buys things online. In fact, you know what? Raise your hands if you have made purchases of anything online. Okay, I think as far as I'm concerned, I have two daughters who are both out of the house. I have two sons, one of whom just left the house to go to Israel. The other one is in college. I get nonstop deliveries. I think the UPS guy, I'm so worried that he's got relationships with somebody in the house because he is at my house 3 times a day, 4 times a day, dropping off packages. So.
You need to check maybe my wife is sending you the boxes because I'm getting also all the time boxes from my wife. And for the retail, I think it's exactly that. I mean, there is now Amazon Now, right? So something broke in my shaving machine. I used to get to go to Bed Bath & Beyond, take a cab, 20 minutes, buy there, let's say $45 to pay for it. Today, Amazon Now, in 2 hours, get it to my place, and it's even cheaper. So why would I now take this trip and go to Bed Bath & Beyond?
I'll tell you something funny about your story. So I was representing a client that was selling an industrial portfolio, and he sold it eventually for $6 billion. Industrial properties that 5 to 10 years ago were considered crap, okay? So as part of my diligence, because I like to go beyond just doing the legal work, I started to investigate the whole Amazon business and the logistics business, but really Amazon. I dropped my daughter off at Columbia University, and about 10 blocks off from Columbia, I see a long row of cars, station wagons, which say Amazon Prime on them. So it was about 40, 50 station wagons. I drive up there, I pull up, I go to the first guy online, he's standing waiting to take his car out, and I said, could you explain this whole business, what's going on here? And he said to me, he said, no. He said, I don't want to explain it to you. I took out $20, and suddenly his mouth was open, and he was explaining it to me. So he said to me that they leave the warehouse at 3:30 in the morning, about 80 to 90 station wagons. Each one is filled with the product that is one of the top 20 best-selling products in their system that day or that week. And they go out, they lock it up, they go out, and their obligation in Amazon Prime is to deliver within 2 hours in Manhattan, Amazon Prime Now. So what will happen is you'll call about a shaver, and the guy who's got the shaver in his truck will be the one who zooms out to you. Now, if you called about a shaver and a book, you might get 2 trucks delivering one of each of those products to your house. That's the difference today, shopping today and shopping 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And this is going to get worse. It's going to get worse, or some would say better if you're an investor in Amazon.
Or in industrial properties.
Or industrial properties, exactly right.
I just wanted to say another something that I didn't, just referring to your question before about the signs, and you said something about would you just sell quickly. So I think one of the two lessons that I learned in the last cycle was, one, you gotta have the power to hold. So if you just hold, it will be fine, right? If you bought it correctly, if the market at the end will correct itself, just hold. Don't sell. People that have to sell, it's a problem. Try not to have to sell. And then the other point of it, the other side of it is to actually buy. So when in 2010, this fund, you all know the name by now, is CIM, just came to New York. I remember meeting with one of the founders. And that guy is a very smart guy, former Israeli. And he told me, listen, whatever I see now in New York, I look at the building. If I like the building, I buy it. I don't care. I don't do my numbers, Excel. I don't care. I've been waiting for 30 years to come to New York, and this is the right time. Because why? Because they have $10 billion, and they knew that it can be too bad, and it can go way much worse than where we are. And if they have the power to hold, they can just buy it. At some point, things will be better. Now, I'm sure that they didn't think that it happened so quickly, so fast, but it happened, and they did very well, right? So today, I think so. One thing is when as we say, when the hummus hits the fan in Israel, just. Right.
Is that a real expression?
I just made it right now on the spot. So you gotta try and hold it, and specifically when you ask about Miami, for example, right? Same thing happened to the market today. If you look at 2012 to 2016 in Brickell, Miami, how many condo units were completed? Around less than 4,000 units. Today, in the next 2 years, there are around 12,000 units coming. 2 years. Now that market was completely destroyed in 2008. We developed there 720 units. We had 100% sold out. Everybody left, just disappeared, right? Because back then it was 10% deposit or 5% deposit, and people just vanished. So we had to lease it and to really make it a rental project. And then we started to little by little, sell condo units. And then, again, cycles, right? So in a second, the building was on fire, in a good way, right? A lot of Latin America capital came back and started buying like crazy. So we sold again pretty quickly, 5 years later, but it got sold. And now this cycle is coming again. So maybe a good investment is to wait to the next cycle, buy condos in Miami, and hold it.
But what percentage of your sales are all cash closings?
That's a good point. Back then, yeah.
That was a good story because at the beginning, right, you guys sold 100% at 10%, and you bought the contracts to sell a higher price.
Correct.
And then but the question now is in Miami, when there's a few developers that cannot build, because they don't get the 30%. Do you guys see that next cycle of crash?
Yeah, I think I just read a very interesting research on the Miami Brickell specifically. And although people invest 50% down deposit, some cases, they're already underwater. The mortgages, they know that they will have to sell, so they're trying to sell their position at a loss. But they're still selling their position, so they're trying to mitigate their risk, their exposure, and they try to sell. But I do think that in some cases, the people will walk away from 50%.
Now you know why I'm going back to Brickell this afternoon.
I heard that if you have the staying power in a bad market, you'll be fine. Retail is, we should be careful with. Anything with CMBS on it is an opportunity. And the multifamily market and industrial is doing extremely well.